Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, DJ Barbecue. We're here with BTC UnCut, and our first guest on episode 198, we have Tiger Man Smith. Tiger Man Smith, how are you today?
I'm amazing, and I'm so glad that I'm on the 198th episode of BTC UnCut.
The 198th episode is going to be one epic episode, that's for sure. Okay.
Way better than 197.
Right? 197, they ain't got nothing on us. Anyway, so our today's topic actually is going to be is the controversial, ever so high demand of talking points is NXT going to USA Network. Now, I made a post on BTC a couple days ago after it got posted, and I basically said that, hey, you guys remember the rebranding of ECW? Yeah, that's going to debut September 18th on the USA Network. And everybody exploded on that. We have you on today to give your thoughts because you're a professor of pro wrestling.
I have my degree.
Yes, an MD and a PhD.
Yes.
And PWP?
PWP, man. You gotta represent,
right? I do want to say that this episode of 198 is brought to you by White Claw, because there ain't no laws why drinking the claws, and Midwest All Pro Wrestling. And also, we got a new sponsor today, LaCroix Sparkling Water. And when you drink LaCroix Sparkling Water, it quenches your thirst.
Let me tell you, with LaCroix, women love a guy that drinks that because it shows that they love the taste of butthole.
Right, and I love it. See, not everybody is going to get that joke though. I think a lot of people might take my pointing of my post of the ECW that we're going to be talking about here, and with the NXT comparison going to USA Network, they'll probably explode on that one if you post that on BTC. Which I think you probably did post that on BTC, and people did blow up.
I think I posted it about White Claw.
Was it about White Claw?
Yeah, about women love a guy, because it shows that they like the taste of butthole, meaning the guy likes to eat butthole. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which I don't know. Everything I say about this stuff is just a joke. It's a friendly nib. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean no harm. I know earlier this week posted something about White Claw, and it just erupted in pure hatred.
Yeah. It is pretty funny how some people take things a little too far, or they. I don't know. Well, I guess they do take it a little too far, but it's like they don't understand that most of us, and I don't blame them, but most of us don't take things so personally. Like we rib each other back and forth. That's basically what the group is. Plus, you talk about wrestling, but you do have your extremists if you want to, if I want to put it in that perspective.
Yeah, they're Heaven's Gate cult if they were arguing about wrestling.
Right, exactly. Well, our number one topic is for today's show is the whole NXT going to USA Network. What's your feelings about that? Because I can kind of explain what my feelings are and kind of describe the reason why I posted what I posted on BTC.
All right. So first of all, everyone's erupting about, oh, it's WWE sabotaging. You don't know that. It takes a lot of work to get a show on a network. It takes months and months, maybe even a year to even get it advertised on there, to even, for them to think about putting it on there. So they might have had no idea about, AEW going on Wednesday nights. Second of all, AEW first was trying to get it on Tuesdays, so it could be, definitely just miscommunication. Second of all, I think it's amazing. You know what I mean? More wrestling, first of all, that's everyone's point. You can't be upset with more wrestling. Third of all, it'll make the boys happy. You know what I mean? The wrestlers in the back, they're going to be making more money. They're going to be making more merch sales. And when you get, the boys have, you get a better product. That's 100% true, 100% of the time. That's why when you go watch like indie wrestling, you're going to get some of the best matches you've seen because they're happy. They might not have like all the money and this and that, but they're happy, and you get a good product.
Do you think, though,
more money.
With that point that you said they're going to be happy, do you think that it would be, they're going to be more inclined to have more free reign, or is it going to be more controlled than what you see on the network as of every Wednesday that we see now?
I would like to say they're going to have more free reign, but it's going to be limited, the free reign that they have. Of course, because it's on a network, you're going to have more people involved, this and that. They're more on the entertainment side, but it's still going to be good. You might one thing you might see limited is some of the moves, because when you're on network television, you have to have everything advertised way before. So when someone gets injured, that costs a lot of money, not only to the boys, but to the promotion and to the network and everything.
Right. So my whole point was, and this is what blew up on BTC, it blew up quite dramatically, if that's the right word to put out. So like I said, and I said this before the beginning of the show, I said, you all remember the rebrand of ECW, and I had question mark and exclamation point 3 times each. And I said, well, it's back September 18th on USA Network. My point of it is that, and I got a lot of crap for it, and people just went after me left and right, which I don't have a problem with that, because everybody can have their own opinion, and I got some pretty big broad shoulders myself here, so I can handle it. But the main point of what I was trying to say is that when they brought ECW back originally, and they had the one night stand, and they had all the original ECW, and I'm saying original twice, but ECW originals. And when they had the ECW originals, it was cool. It was just like it was before. You have a fan base that's no other type of fan base ever. I don't know. I would put it in the same category as a WCW fan base. You know how they were edgy, they were raw, they were organic, they were original. It wasn't just like, oh, that was because that was the big brand. Now I'm a fan, or like we have right now. And I'm from South Dakota, so I'll say it. It's like the fanboys for Brock Lesnar. Everybody's like a UFC fan, so they're thinking, well, Brock Lesnar's the champion. Well, I'm sorry, but Brock Lesnar did not have that great of a record in UFC. And I'm not going to get off too far a point. But, realistically, if you look at his record, it wasn't that great of a record. Conor McGregor, just a name off the bat, and not because I'm like a huge fan of Conor McGregor, but he had a better record overall than Brock Lesnar ever did. Brock Lesnar was just a big name, and Dana White saw a dollar sign, so they threw him in there right away. I think his record's like 4 wins, and I think like 8 losses maybe, and I could be wrong, and people will fact check me all day, and I hope they do, because that's what they should do. But my point is with this whole ECW going over there was the fact that, okay, so they had a well-known brand. Yes, they brought it back to a TV show. It was great. Yeah, they had to add new talent into there to give it some legitimacy to like be in that day of age. Otherwise, they wouldn't have anything, because you can't just have a bunch of men that are in their higher ages they can still go, but higher ages, and not produce anything. That's the same thing that they're doing right now with Raw and SmackDown. It's the same thing. You have the older wrestlers come in, they're all part-timers, and you don't have any product build. So like what with that ECW came in, that wasn't even the rebranding that I'm talking about. That was just bringing ECW back and making that on Sci-Fi, which is a Universal TV network with NBC affiliate. And so they go up and they have that doing great, and then all of a sudden Vince, gets his little hands in there and critiques it, and whoever else was in charge, and then ends up having him win the title, which pisses off a lot of the originals. And by this point, they have a lot of different talent that could have been possibly really great to the main roster, but at least they were trying to make that ECW separate from all the SmackDown and the Raw that they had. Well, then, like I said, Vince got in there and he critiqued it a little bit more and more. Vince wins the title, and then all of a sudden now he's sending talent that's not being used as much to ECW, and then they rebranded it.
Yeah.
And so then it got worse and worse. You had the Big Show, you had Chris Benoit, which they did great. CM Punk was down there. I thought Kevin Thorne, which should have been really great, but they never really pulled the button on that or pushed the button on that one to make him really good. So they did that all the time. So then they went against their whole platform, their whole chemistry, which made it original and organic. And even though that brand has been gone for a while, you still have those loyal fans. I mean, hell, even today, how long ago was that they had that brand on Sci-Fi? They still have people chant ECW. I mean, it's a dominant brand. You could have put that in Philadelphia and just did shows like what independent TV shows, like sometimes, Ring of Honor does go around, MLW goes around, and I love MLW and Ring of Honor. TNA, which they branded it to Impact, really definitely branded it into Impact now. They do little house show kind of versions that look like little mini stadiums, which works, and they could have done that with ECW. But now what happened was after they did that rebranding, it died off, and then they lost viewers, and then it got canceled. Okay, now going to NXT being on the network. Now, from what I've told you, what do you feel on what I've said so far? I mean, are you in agreement that, from what I have said is pretty accurate, or am I off point on that ECW?
It could be accurate, but there's a couple bullet points. One, Sci-Fi Network. Who turns into Sci-Fi Network with Watch Wrestling? First of all, it's such an opposite type of channel to throw that on there. So all the cross viewership that you're hoping to get, you lose because it's on Sci-Fi. Number two, it's ECW. The ECW fandom would not accept anything other than ECW. That's 100% it. Those fans were just blood, guts, ECW. Not that it's a bad thing. I love the classic ECW, but no matter what you put on there, people are going to hate it. You know what I mean? Unless it's old school ECW.
Old school ECW, they had in the beginning.
Yeah. They did, and people loved it. The one night stand, it was awesome. It was ECW. A lot of the superstars came out in their old ECW gear, including Benoit, Jericho. It was ECW, and people tuned into that because they want ECW. They were never gonna take Raw to the nice stadiums that that the TV stations are gonna want it to have. Especially with like money behind it and stuff like that. There is no way the fandom was gonna take it. Vince putting his hands in it, the fandom was never gonna take.
Right.
That was the anti-ECW.
Right.
To them, that's what killed ECW. And then he brings it back, and he's like, "This is ECW." It would take off like that.
Right.
It would
and see,
never.
And see, that's my point though, because like, and I should actually get to the point a little bit better here. Okay, so you said all those points. So then you fast forward to now. So you have, and I remember NXT when it was on Hulu. And this is when they were at Full Sail and they were just on Hulu. They didn't have the network quite yet. They were thinking about it. It was in plans. You had people had rumors and talks. But so they had NXT down there. And I remember every NXT show. I mean, I watched it from the beginning. And this was after they took FCW and they rebranded it to NXT from the NXT that they had on TV. Because you do remember, if I'm correct, they took that ECW and put NXT on the show. Did they not? And then tried to. That's where Daniel Bryan and all the the Nexus members all got pro players to be with them. They kind of did some type of weird chemistry to have their pro counterparts to their teachers, kind of coaches, pro coaches that teach them all that. They kind of went through different gauntlets. So they did that. So they took that ECW, switched it over there because you're right. That was like the anti-ECW. So you took the anti-ECW, that failed, took it off of Sci-Fi, brought it back over to whatever it was. I don't even know if it was on Sci-Fi still, but they had it on another channel. So they took all that FCW, NXT, mixed it together, had the NXT on there. Then they decided to take that off the air and cancel that completely. So then everybody didn't know what was going on. Well, then, not everybody watched it or knew about it, because I remember talking to a couple people, a few people that I knew around here, and they had no idea that was even on. And I'm like, yeah, go to Hulu. You can watch it on there. It's NXT. It's great. I mean, they had characters that were awesome. Like, the biggest mistake they ever made was giving Leo Kruger that Adam or whatever character. What was he? He was the candy sucker sucking, conga line, kind of what you have No Way Jose's being right now, and it's depressing because it's just like they give him this gimmick, it goes great in NXT, and since they did all this bringing athletes up and to the main roster, it's just like they don't get a fair shake. They did when it was like the Shield, because it was like, I like to call it the era of the Shield, because that's all who you saw on the top. It was, Dean, Roman, Rollins, and, Brock and all that, and it just got old to me. So they did that. They had it on there, and then they had NXT Arrival. So then they were talking about putting NXT for 2 hours live on the WWE Network. That went on for a couple months, and they noticed that wasn't working because it was just getting too time consuming back and forth trying to be on the main roster for the ones that had to be there. They go back and forth, they do all that. So then, long story short, they went back to a 1 hour process of tape time. So they, were taped, and it was going great. So guess what they're doing now? Like everybody else knows, they did this and announced it this last Monday. NXT is going to USA Network.
Yeah.
Now, does that sound familiar to you from what I was explaining to you?
It does, but it is different. It's a lot smaller of a brand than ECW was. The fandom is a lot less hardcore and more accepting of stuff. And it's only going to broaden the horizon of the show. It's going to put more money behind it. It's going to make it better. ECW wasn't that. Like, the appeal to ECW was that it wasn't that. So you got two different things.
Would you say that they were kind of, because it was that 2 hour type of thing, that they kind of got tired with it because things weren't getting booked right? It was being overproduced, moderated?
Yes. You can't go against the brand. You know what I mean? You can't, especially something like ECW. You just can't go against that brand. What made it, you know what I mean? You're just turning it anti. That's all you're doing.
Right.
With NXT, you're not gonna have that. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, NXT is the best thing WWE has," and this and that. Not everyone feels it. In fact, you're probably a minority.
Especially when that, NXT was first starting and it was only on Hulu. I mean, they directly would tape it, and they would have, just like they do now, like several episodes ahead of time, and then they would, put it on that day, every week on Hulu, just like they would do after it airs on the WWE Network.
Yeah. But, just if you're rooting for NXT to succeed because it's NXT, you're rooting for the wrong thing. You should be more of a fan of the girls, you know what I mean? Because that's who you should be rooting for. Value, not this, even though all that stuff's going to improve, root for them because that's who's going to make it in the end. That's who you want to be happy because that's who's going to make the better product.
And see, that's where my point is because, other than the fact that I'm a fan of pro wrestling, I'm a fan of NXT, a huge fan of NXT, because it seems like it's been produced, it's been written, it's been booked a lot better over the years. I mean, even when they had their, if you want to call it their semi rebranding time when, you know, you have all your top talent get taken out of there and then they go up to the big leagues for the main roster. Um, After with the events that have been going on for like the last couple of years, I'm really glad because there's an individual there that I know that I've met. I've actually helped a promotion, an independent one that's actually in the state of South Dakota, which is the Midwest All Pro Wrestling, which sponsors this
Yeah.
because we're doing a show August 30th in Vermillion, South Dakota to help the food pantry there. That's Shayna Baszler. And
Yeah.
the fact that they're going to be able to have this on the network, which to me is a positive, or not the network, they're taking it to USA, which is a positive because that means then Shayna doesn't have to go to the main roster, which I think she's way capable of doing. But the way that they book these NXT superstars that, you know, I mean,
You don't want her to get buried.
No, I don't want her to get buried, and I don't think she deserves to
No.
get buried because she's a very hardworking individual. I mean, I've heard other, you know, talking points and videos right after, you know, their takeover shows, and, you know, I hear Paul Levesque, which is Triple H, always sit there and talk so highly about their athletes. I mean, look what happened to Enzo and Big Kaz, you know, and Ty Dillinger, and, you know, some of the other ones that aren't on with the company at all.
You can't bring up Enzo and Big Cass because and I do have inside information that they weren't getting along with the boys. First of all, if you're in wrestling and you're backstage, you have to get along. You guys are family. You guys are traveling together. You guys, you know, eat together. You guys are together. You're a family.
Right.
And if you're not getting along, you might see some success,
right,
but it's not going to be long lasting. You're not going to be happy. Look at Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior was, you know, he had
that's
the
a whole different
greatest
specimen
success
right there.
Yeah, but, you know, his attitude towards the boys, his ego, not, you know, his see him until, you know, the match and stuff like that.
Which I'm just completely surprised that they have Dana sitting there on staff with who has no idea about the business at all.
Yeah, exactly. But Enzo's attitude is what doomed him. And when they found a reason to cut him, they did. You know what I mean? That's why after the whole controversy ended, he didn't get an invitation back.
Right. But at the same time, do you feel, for a quick point on this with Enzo, do you feel that he should have been, you know, at least had that offer and they could have discussed it? I mean, they didn't have to technically really give him a job back, but due to the fact that they did the investigation, they did everything, and they found out that she was just full of crap, do you think there should have been at least that offering to, like, at least have a meeting and those guys would talk? I mean, obviously that's probably ruined now since, you know, he pulled that stunt at one of their pay-per-views and he was watching. I mean, I know several wrestlers go to these pay-per-views and watch the show. They kind of try to be incognito so they don't take away from the talent that's actually on the show. Or they're in the back when they do, you know, they're there to watch. But do you think they should have at least offered to have that type of talk and just have that meeting?
No. WWE didn't owe him nothing. Okay? He should have, number one, he should have brought up the controversy. It's like a family, you know what I mean? Yeah, if he would have brought it up and, like, prepared him, like, be like, hey, you know what, it might be some bad publicity, you know, coming up because of this. It's 100% not true. Let's see what, you know what I mean? Like, I'm doing you that courtesy, you know what I mean? Maybe there'd be, like, a little bit more wiggle room, maybe, like, hey, take a little vacation, you know, let this blow over, let the court rulings come through, and then we'll talk. But instead, he waited until it blew up, and he was like, oh, yeah, that happened, you know what I mean? And you know, besides that, you know, he was on a Cruiserweight show, and he's just rubbing the boys the wrong fucking way.
Right.
Everyone hated him. I'm not going to throw out the name, but the person I knew that was behind there, he was like, that's our champ. That's fucking embarrassing. Like, this guy doesn't know how to wrestle.
Well, I mean, not to take anything away, because I respect you and I respect all your friends and that stuff and about this, but on a point for playing devil's advocate, because some people might bring this up, um, or make a comment after this episode's posted. But do you think that people would say, well, if he didn't know how to wrestle, then he probably wouldn't have been in NXT as long as he did, and he wouldn't have be able to make it to the main roster? I mean, I think one of their segments was pretty, um, pretty high.
Yeah. I mean, he had his personality, which, from what I hear, that's him in real life. So that gets rather annoying when you have someone like that. But the fans dug it up. They bought stuff. So they kept them.
Right.
But when you have a show like the cruiserweights, where you get like the best wrestlers out of the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I will say though, real quick, I didn't want him on 205 Live, only because
No.
with his capabilities, and they screwed that up with breaking Enzo and Kaz up. They screwed that up. I didn't want him on 205 Live at all, because that just was that
Yeah.
that should have been separate. And that this is part of my point of why I'm kind of playing that devil's advocate, that I'm against NXT going to USA Network. But go ahead.
Cass carried Enzo 100%. You know what I mean? He was the wrestling behind it. Enzo was the personality, and together they made one wrestler.
Right. Thus, you have
That's
Heyman
all
and
it is.
Lesnar.
Yeah. So
I'm from South Dakota, so I like to rib Lesnar all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But so when you have like the best wrestlers in the world in the back, and you can barely do an arm drag.
Right. And see, for people that don't know, you actually have experience training in professional wrestling.
I do, and wrestling, and I've done it for years. I actually trained and wrestled with a lot of the top athletes in New Japan. Even some WWE. Everywhere. Impact. In fact, I went to Expo Lucha last weekend and saw some very good friends that I haven't seen in a while.
Right on.
Saw Joey Ryan, which we actually both came up in. EWF. I saw TJ Perkins, which is actually one of my best friends. Awesome seeing him. He actually got me New Japan Pro Wrestling Super J tickets for this tomorrow, actually.
Right on.
Yeah, got to see Solar, got to see Penta. I got to see a lot of good friends, man.
Right.
Little Cholo, which was, what was his name, on Mr. Cisco from Lucha Underground.
Right.
We go way back. It was good seeing him. I haven't seen him in like 10 years. It was just a great, experience. But dressing rooms, they can be very fickle, man.
Right. So going with the point that I was trying to say with how they put people in different shows, and they should keep them separate. That's what I'm afraid of with NXT going to USA Network, because you have a unique brand. You have that to where they show those shows. So like one instance, someone posted this gift, and it's the ECW after the rebranding, and they have a guy walking around looking like Igor, but looks like Frankenstein at the same time, and he's supposed to be one of these characters. Now that was my main issue, because like you take a very successful brand like NXT has been, and it's always been successful because it's on the network. It's worldwide. Okay?
Yeah.
So then you take your brand, and you're going to go 2 hours, which they've already done this before, and it didn't work out that well. And so they went back to the 1 hour, but it was all pre-recorded. I get that. Live 1 hour would probably be better. But now you're doing the same exact thing that they did with that ECW, which you had original, and everybody gave me crap trying to say that, oh, well, look, it was an established business. Well, yes, NXT right now is the same category. It's an established business, established promotion. My worries is that they're going to go with this 2 hour, go to USA Network, and now they're going to add different things, because then you take away from your wanting more factor. So now you take it off the network, you go to USA. USA is not a worldwide brand. It's not a network that is available in a lot of countries. So now you're taking away from your demographic, from more of your customers, um, that not being on the network. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing that I'm worried about, and it's just like they're gonna add more characters that are useless, and then it's gonna be like how you have like Shayna Baszler, or even um, you'll have Becky or Sasha or Bailey. You know how they started, even Charlotte, even Summer Rae. You go back to then, even the Funkadactyls. You go back there, how they just periodically like grew, and you saw them grow. Yes, they did have that 2 hour live at one point, but then they cut it down to the 1 hour live, and they kept going. And then it was organic, it was original, it had the um, best programming, best booking, better than the main rosters, because every takeover was just killing it, just killing their main things, especially if they're the day before or 2 days before, they were killing
Yeah,
it.
it
So now you
still
go back
is.
to, yeah.
But I mean, the takeovers are still going to be on the network. I don't know how they're going to be doing the shows on the network anymore. That hasn't been disclosed. So
It
we
has to
just
be
got
just
to.
like the agreement that they have with the other two shows, unless Fox does a different agreement. But I know right now it would have to be the same exact agreement that they have with Hulu, where you have to wait until the next day. They'll cut it down. If it's 2 hours,
Yeah,
they'll cut it to a 90-minute episode. Normally, that's only the 3 hour show, which is Raw. SmackDown, they do that with I think they keep the same amount of time, but sometimes
yeah,
it's a little shorter depending on how much commercials that they have in between the action. And
yeah.
I would almost think that NXT would be like that. So you're not gonna have the capabilities of, like, let's say I get off of work and all of a sudden I get home and I'm like, oh, it's after 7 o'clock. It's 9:30. I can pop on the app and watch the network, and then watch NXT and replay it. I don't think you'll have that capability, because you'll have to wait until it's on Hulu. So then that takes another product away from your network, from basically when you
Well,
build it up. You know what I mean? So that's another thing that I'm worried about.
we'll see. We don't know their plans exactly, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
We gotta wait and see. Um, at the end of the day, it's gonna be. We don't know how it's gonna be. It could either be the best thing for NXT, or it could be the worst thing for NXT. We don't know. Maybe maybe they are just feeding NXT to the dogs to try to get at AEW. Who knows?
And that's the
We don't
thing.
know this.
Wouldn't that be counter-reactive though? Wouldn't that be like, okay, so if they do put it on there? I mean, not one time did I ever hear any interviews or read anything um that they ever said that it was going to be like a war, or they're trying to close down WWE. Now, it's like they're trying to take this fight. It's like just to feed someone's ego. And I have a feeling this would be counterproductive, because if everything goes well and NXT starts losing viewers, because my quite frankly, I might not watch NXT anymore, because it's not I can watch it on Hulu the next morning. And I know you
Yeah.
can't watch AEW, you know, on another like streaming device. As far as I know, Double or Nothing is still like about 50 some bucks if you want to
Yeah,
watch that.
but
So they don't have that outlet. So aren't they trying to do that whole thing like WCW did, and was like giving away the what the actual show was going to be about with the
yeah,
Mick Foley, and then you got all these viewers going over? Isn't couldn't that happen?
we'll see. First of all, AEW hasn't shown that they could put on a consistent show at all. I'm not like anti AEW. I love AEW. I love that they have another place to work. I love the wrestling. Uh, but they have a flawed system. Two of their main event wrestlers are out the next show. One for sure. One maybe with Ray Phoenix.
Right. I
Um,
think someone, Brandon just told me about that and said that he injured something. He was going for a kick or something, and he just dropped. immediately right
What
to
it
the
was
floor.
him and Penta against Teddy Hart and Hoovy, and which is weird because I don't see Teddy Hart and Hoovy really meshing too well.
Right. Do you think
Um,
the Laredo Kid might fill in, or do you think they'll go to a different area?
we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. It's such a wild card thing, you know. We'll see if even Penta still shows up. You know what I mean? It's up in the air. Um, but I guess he went to break up a pinfall with Teddy and Penta with a super kick, and he just collapsed with his leg, and he had to be helped to the back, and Teddy Hart followed him concerned and everything like that. So
See that that's the thing though. People have said they've mentioned that okay, this is what happens when you have your talent being allowed to go and wrestle at other places, and this is why they should be like WWE and not allow this. What's your feelings about people making comments like that? Since you have been in that type of scene, when I mean,
it,
mean as scene as you were a wrestler, you've
yeah.
gone to promotion to promotion.
Um, Number one, this is what I was always taught by one of my mentors, Jesse Hernandez. Um, you're special. You know what I mean? You have to build up your name and this and that. So where you wrestle at, that makes that special because that's the only place they can get you. Um, so the fact that if you're AEW and you have the superstars wrestling somewhere else, they can essentially get that product somewhere else. They could go somewhere and see, Penta and Ray Phoenix, and it's a double edged sword because people are gonna be like, oh wow, I love them. I'm gonna go see AEW with them on there.
Right.
But then again, it could be like, I don't need to go see AEW because I've seen them here.
Yeah. So it's kind of a double-edged sword then.
Yeah. So it's very kind of it's iffy and up in the air. Number two is all this money that you're investing in someone, in advertisement and pushing stuff like that. You're putting that all at risk by letting them wrestle somewhere else, especially with I don't want to say sport, but with a business with such a high rate of injury, you're just putting all that up in the air with nothing. And
But how would they get their
that
product, credibility though if they're not going to these other events, not going to these other promotions? Because I know it helps out those other promotions. I mean, even the promotion that I help here, I've seen what happens when a wrestler who is booked backs out and gives some whatever reason. And that experience really hurts the promotion. You know what I mean? So like I see
yeah.
both sides, but like do you do you
But
do you think that they should do that more often and be like protective of their talent? Because then how would they get that experience wrestling and not have the ring rust, if you quote unquote use that term?
well, Penta and Ray Phoenix, they're legacy talents. You know what I mean? They grew up wrestling. You know what I mean? They're not gonna just all of a sudden get ring rust because they wrestled 2 times in a month instead of weekly or daily or anything like that.
I mean, I think they were the
Uh,
hardest working wrestlers that they have right now because
they are.
I mean they were they were in like a seventh gear. If you were talking
They're,
about a manual engine, I mean, I know there's not a seventh gear, but man, they were all over the place. I mean, the amount of, and not to be a pun, but the amount of impact that they did when they were in Lucha Underground. I mean, he right away, both those two were just immediate success story. You had
yeah.
people nonstop just viewing and coming into that or going to those tapings just to see those two. I mean,
Oh,
it's absolutely amazing on the actual acrobatics that they can do.
they're the top talent in the world right now. Um, also the lucha. They wrestle every day when they can, um, which increases their injury rate. But like that's the lucha lifestyle, man. Is that you wrestle as much as you can when you can.
Like for some of the ones
Uh,
that don't know this, give them kind of a hint of experience or knowledge. Throw that knowledge out to them of how many days they really do wrestle in lucha, because I know that it's a whole different beast down there in
okay,
Mexico or anywhere that they have the lucha style.
okay. I'll give you this example. I was talking to T. He was pretty much uh, in career. Um, he told me he just came back from Impact in Mexico, with their AAA and stuff like that.
Yeah, with TJ.
Yeah, he was wrestling. I think 3 shows there. He got into a plane, came to San Diego, or he drove up to San Diego, wrestled 2 days in a row, main event. The next day he had another show. I believe last night or 2 days ago, he had the first leg of the New Japan Pro Cup. He wrestled last night, I think. He's wrestling tomorrow, and he still has shows that like fill the schedule in between.
Right.
So that's a workhorse. You know what I mean?
And I think this is just an awesome time for these individuals though that are on the
Yeah,
independent scene, because I mean they can literally make a great living.
it's amazing. They can. Also, another example of lucha being like a workhorse is I know it's gonna sound funny, but I went on tour in Vegas when I was 20, and we pulled up, and that's what I heard was like, oh man, we're doing a tour in Vegas. I was like, sweet, I can't wait. Pull up, it's a circus tent. So
They had that in Iowa just the other day. A couple of guys that I know from one of the independents here, or the independent here in South Dakota,
yeah,
and I saw a video, and it was really weird. It was in
yeah,
a circus tent. They had
yeah,
no skirting on the ring, and it
yeah,
it was literally like you would see on movies where they would be in the like desert outback of Mexico.
yeah. But see, like the circus I wrestled for had clowns and everything too.
Oh wow! So you
Yeah,
really got a circus ole.
yeah, and in order to like move the ring inside, all the wrestlers had to like lift up the ring before the show and put it on these rollers. And then when the clowns and everything were done, we had to push the ring into the middle, lift the ring back up, take out the rollers, put it down, and then start the show. Then after the show, lift it up, put it on the rollers, roll it back out.
Right.
Um, but this is the example of how much you work in lucha. 3 shows a day. 3 shows a
So
day.
I mean, it's not just a saying. It's not just a promo saying where they say twice on Sundays, twice on Saturdays.
No, yeah, absolutely. I remember doing lucha. Having a show in Anaheim, then having to rush out to LA, and then right after that, go main event something else, a little bit further.
Wow.
So that's 3 shows. That's lucha. You know what I mean?
Are those
It's
matches a certain time, or are they all the same time, or do you have
it
them?
depends. Sometimes you'll have like a show end at like a show start early and end kind of early too, and then you rush off to LA for like a show that starts later. Sometimes you're like in the opening card because you have to be, and then in order to make it to like the next show and stuff, it's a scheduling nightmare. But it's life. You know what I mean? It's a lifestyle.
Hmm. So what type of actual scheduling is that? Do you go like 3 weeks on time, 4 weeks, or do you go a good like 7 days a week, or do you just go a month and then take a couple weeks off?
It all depends. It all depends.
So basically,
Sometimes
you
they
could
have to
go
take
pretty much nonstop more than 360 days a year.
Oh, you can
if you get that
definitely.
if
I
you
mean,
get
of
that
course,
much
you're gonna have
credibility.
some days off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have some days off. You know what I mean? Not every promotion is gonna be running, constantly and stuff like that. But yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, it is amazing and it's a great time. Um, I think it's a great time for professional wrestling. I don't like to use the term that Kevin Dunn always likes to use and Vince McMahon is the whole sports entertainment. I mean, I understand that it's a form of entertainment, but it's professional wrestling. It's don't water it down. And I think that I don't know, maybe you could say the same thing, but too many people bitch about it. Too many
Yeah,
people complain. I rather see. I think this is great. I'd rather see all this wrestling. To be honest with you, I don't.
yeah,
Don't just like not. I don't go and. I don't like Ring of Honor. I don't like Impact. I don't like MLW. I like them all. I especially
yeah,
love MLW lately. I mean that has
yeah,
Austin Aries. That has Jacob Fatu. That has your MJF, which is he's in a
yeah,
group. Um, it's three of them. It's Hammerstein, uh,
yeah,
MJF, and then there's one other gentleman that I'm sorry that I can't remember his name at the moment.
yeah,
But they called themselves the Dynasty, and it's
yeah,
absolutely awesome. And then they have Contra Club,
yeah,
and that's with Jacob Fatu that has um, the guy from the Von Villains that's in
yeah.
there, and he completely shaved off his mustache, cut his hair differently, and it's just it's hardcore. Like it's like what you would see.
Simon Gotch, right?
Yeah, Simon Gotch. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, that's who it is. And they got another guy from Japan that they just brought over. But I mean, because they have a great working relationship with other
yeah,
organizations, and man, they have Jim Cornette on there. They have just recently they got Mr. WCW, which I like to say because he was like the
yeah,
best announcer, Tony Schiavone, there, and I
yeah,
guess he's also working with AEW as well.
yeah.
But man, it's amazing what Impact's doing, what Ring of Honor's doing. I know people are hard about Ring of Honor because it's kind of a retooling year for them, just kind of like with football. But what are some of the things that you're looking forward to?
Just the great action, man. The building of the super. There is nothing better in wrestling than building superstars. Remember when Stone Cold blew up? The Rock blew up. People like want to like give like wrestlers shit because they're not blowing up like right away, but like look how long it took The Rock to be accepted by fans.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's like the best example. Like,
Hogan
like
had the
people are
same
like, oh,
problem. I mean,
Roman
he
still
noticed
has that
that.
problem.
Yeah, I mean,
Roman still has that problem.
but do you
But like
understand
when
why? I
you,
mean, do you? I mean, I don't mean to like say this in a bad way to kind of like when I say this to slam me in the face, but do you understand why they don't like him? I mean,
you
some people
I
don't.
could
Some
tell
people
you,
don't understand, and that's not you know talking down to you as an individual or talking down to
yeah.
anybody. Just some people don't get it, but I'm pretty sure you
I,
get it because you've been in the
I,
business or you are in the
I could,
business.
I could tell you exactly why I like Roman, but I don't like him, and that's because it feels like he has a lack of a move list. Like that's his move list is a lack of. Um, the Rock kind of had the same thing where he only had like a couple moves, but Roman feels like when you have a little kid play a wrestling video game and they just spam like two moves, and you're
I'm
like,
guilty of
oh,
that
yeah, this damn kid, he
because I
keeps
can't play
doing a
video games
Superman
and
punch.
wrestling ones.
Yeah,
Except for
but
WrestleFest, I could play WrestleFest.
oh man, I used to have the full size cabinet in my room when I was younger.
I'm hating you right now as we speak.
Yeah, it was a good time, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
It's like a little kid spamming wrestling moves. If he worked on his moveset and actually was able to utilize like more moves, man, like Roman would be unstoppable. You know what I mean? He'd be the Rock 2.0.
I would say that he probably could have been that Rock 2.0 by this point if they would have just given Rusev that Royal Rumble. If
Yeah,
they would have went off the crowd and would have switched this and had Rusev throw Roman over that top rope and give Rusev that Royal Rumble win, I don't think that
yeah,
they would have had that big of a problem with Roman
yeah.
Reigns. I think that
I
was too soon.
I
I don't know. I
I
mean, what do you
think
think?
I think they need to. That's what man. Like Stone was accepted as Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was a dick, man. He was
Yeah.
an asshole. He beat the shit out of Bret Hart. You know what I mean? Like that's what made people love him. Came out, he was an asshole. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like people hated The Rock, and when he started, that's when he became The Rock,
Right.
the
I mean,
people's
yeah,
champion.
because he was that smiling, smart ass. Everybody
Yeah,
who didn't like it, and then he started going out being an asshole, just like Austin did. Austin, you know, he came out, spoke his. It's amazing. He
yeah,
his slogan that he had. He's not even in the business, and he's still one of the most loved. I mean, people pop for him just
yeah,
like if he was still on the show, which
yeah.
that
Oh
shows
yeah,
the credibility of the character and the individual who played the character.
yeah. If you want more like examples of being a Austin 316, the most wrestling
Right.
was him being a dick, being a legend that had an alcohol and drug problem, and mocking him, saying John 316. Well, I am on, and that just says I just kicked your ass.
Right.
Like, how is that not an asshole? You just threw this guy's like
You can
face
say your
at him.
Psalms. You can say your John
Yeah,
3:16. Austin 3:16 said, "I just whooped your ass." Yeah, dude, that was epic.
like,
I don't think, and I think he said that was him shooting from the hip. Like that wasn't scripted. He didn't like what was scripted, so he just shot
yeah,
off the hip, I think.
yeah. So, like, being an asshole launched one of the biggest superstars in wrestling. So, like, why can't they just let Robin go out there and not be lovable and not try to be lovable? Like, let him go out there and be an asshole.
Right.
That's the way you're going to get him over. Look at MJF, man. MJF is one of the breakout superstars that, like, not a lot of people heard of. But when you go and you listen to his, like, how can you not love him?
Yeah. I the one thing that I really liked though, it seemed more organic. It didn't seem pushed. And so like that was one of the things that highlighted my and that's the reason why I'm looking forward to this whole AEW premiering in October,
Yeah.
which is actually I can say this since this is going to, the 198th episode. My birthday is on October 1st, so I'm looking forward to
Ah,
having my birthday there and then watching that and then going on to the weekend because then it would be the homecoming. But I'll talk more about that as we go on our next episode. Um, I know that it's getting up to here about an hour, and it's been a great conversation. We've talked about NXT, talked about all different talking points with the USA Network, AEW, Enzo, Kaz, those type of those ins and outs of being an idiot in the locker room and then we're talking
yes.
about Roman. I do want to end though real quick because like I was telling people that I have or I am working with a promotion. I'm doing an event. August 30th is been recognized as an official day in the city of Vermillion, South Dakota, in the state of South Dakota, as Slam Out Hunger, and that is with Midwest All Pro Wrestling. Who owns that promotion is actually Eugene, and his
Yes.
wife, 2016 Miss South Dakota, also 2016 Miss Fitness out of Miss America, Stephanie Dinsmore. Um, and they have a heart of gold, and so the city was very gracious enough to approve it. I proposed it with the councilman in our Northwest Ward, who ended up getting a proclamation up. They signed it, and we handed it to him last Monday to Midwest All Pro, and then that also goes to all the sponsors who've been a part of this. BTC is one of the sponsors.
Yeah.
B Brink of Sanity Pro Wrestling is one of the sponsors. Freedom Value Center of Vermillion is one of the sponsors, who is from Vermillion, and Inkatami, tattoo artist Erin.
Yeah.
She is just has a heart of gold herself, and she's one of the sponsors to make this happen. Also, Pepsi Cola of Siouxland came in and donated about $300. I would say about $300 of product if you include the signs, the printing, the water, the pops, and the T-shirts, all that together. I think that's just amazing, and this all benefits the food pantry here in Vermillion, South Dakota.
And let's not forget about the amazing referee Ethan that they have.
Oh yes, that referee. So speaking of that, thank you for bringing that up there, Tiger. So they have 4 individuals from Vermillion, South Dakota that is actually going to be in that event. You have Ronnie Brown, who is a member in one half of the Awesome Tag Team, Team Awesome, who are multi-time tag team champs within Midwest All Pro Wrestling. Him and Brian Nitro. We also have Ethan Iglesias, who is a superb referee who had a little confrontation while he was refereeing a match between DeLorean Diggs, Giggles, who is a clown, kind of a funny, sadistic clown, but he's really funny because he likes to have fun. And then they were going against this Prince of Africa, Prince Ali. He kind of is one of those. He's kind of touchy when he's in the ring, man. He didn't like referee Iglesias refereeing the match down the middle. So he kind of had a confrontation. Got disqualified. Freak Nasty was his teammate, and they got disqualified because of what Prince Ali did. So it'll be interesting to see what happens Friday, August 30th, and see what happens. So then, hopefully the ref, will stand up for himself, but maybe not. I'm not for sure. But yeah, all 4 of those individuals are from Vermillion. They either go to college, they either grew up here. They're still community members of here, so thank them. I give them huge props. I mean, they're doing a great thing for the community, and I appreciate it. I know the food pantry appreciates it. One last talking point before we go. You were talking about Enzo, and I have a story to tell you about that, and we'll end with this one. When I was talking about how, when you have wrestlers that go to promotions and they back out. So we had an incident at one of Midwest All Pro Wrestling's shows. And they have been advertising that Flying Brian Pillman Jr. would be there. And we have a lot of fans now that call him Flying Crying Brian Jr. Because he called and pulled out of the event like 2 weeks before. After just several months of having it being promoted with him on the poster. Well, here's what lovable boss Eugene had to say, was the fact that he gets a call 2 weeks ago, and it was Flying Brian coming back, and ended up sitting there and saying that, he has a chance to wrestle this top-tier worldwide known talent for this promoter in New York City, which is the same promotion that Moxley was going to be at, Big Cass was going to be at, and a lot of other guys in New York City, and that was the new promotion, NEW. And so he goes on and tells Mr. Eugene, this is Brian, said that, I would really like to wrestle for him, and I'll make it up to you. So Eugene, granted him his wish, and, unfortunately, there wasn't really that. I mean, they had a good, 40 people there, but, it would have been bigger if he would have actually showed up, because the word got around and people didn't show up. They did pay for the tickets, but they didn't show. So come to think of it, 2 weeks later, the show happens, and, Eugene's talking about this, and Eugene finds this out. And I'm glad that, rewind a little bit, that I told my son not to wear the free agents t-shirt while he was going to help set up.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell you who my son that, is the one that's helping Eugene. But I was like, yeah, son, you don't want to wear that shirt. I love that shirt. I bought it for him for his birthday. And my son's older. And don't wear that. You're going to get it ruined. Well, come to find out, I'm sitting there, at the ticket door being security. And I hear Eugene go and say that, that world-renowned, well-known talent across the world that Pillman Jr. wanted to wrestle was Enzo. Yeah, really great. Enzo, and Eugene actually trained Enzo at the Performance Center. He was one of
Yeah.
NXT's top coaches. So that was pretty funny to find out. And then here to come find out, he would have had Junior would have had a better match with Rich Maxwell, which you better mark that on your calendar to remember that name or write it down on a post-it note because you're going to see him around on TV very shortly because he's already wrestled well-known talent, Hall of Famers like he's wrestled the Boogeyman, he's wrestled Mr. ECW, and Bully Ray always likes to call him the fat boy. But you know who I'm talking about. He's wrestled. He's going to be wrestling Billy Gunn this September on the 27th for Supermania, which is a big Comic-Con. If you were able to come up here, I think you'd be really liking that because I heard that you like to do those cons. I've gone to this one. I really want to go to the bigger ones, like where you're probably around in California. San Diego Comic-Con would be huge. But anyway, so find out that later at night, and I showed this to Eugene, here he jobbed for Enzo. He lost in the match, and Enzo used the Razor's Edge, and he used, he did Roman's little, where he did the drive-by, where the guy's hanging out the side of the ring, and then he comes running around and bams him with his feet. So Enzo did that. So, yeah, if he's Pillman's been getting a lot of slack lately from a lot of fans around here because he didn't come to the show, which is they have an agreement. It happens. But I just wanted to say that because I thought it was pretty funny because how you were saying that Enzo he is, and I've heard that too. I had to play devil's advocate on the show, but I think that's kind of weird and funny at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, but at least Brian Pillman Jr. was respectable, and he seeked. That shows that you're a man. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he didn't just no show.
Right.
I actually, for the first time, I saw Brian Pillman Jr. at the Expo Lucha.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, he was teamed with Teddy Hart and Davey Boy Smith Jr.
Oh yeah, they got the Hart Foundation. They're on MLW.
Oh, man,
it's great.
It's
dude, the stuff that they do, and Teddy Hart has a I don't give an F attitude when he comes to the match. I mean, that dude is legit. And I'm glad he's in an independent show because he doesn't need to be WWE at all.
But I don't think he could be. He's a tremendous talent, but he's burned so many bridges.
Oh yeah,
with his attitude.
I've heard that.
100%. But you know what? That guy is a heat factor, man. He'll just draw in heat. It's amazing.
Right. No, that whole, and I'm liking both. I mean, isn't Davey Boy Jr. and Teddy, aren't those they're actually relatives, right? They're cousins.
They are. Teddy Hart being the nephew of Bret Hart. And Davey Boy Smith Jr. being the son of British Bulldog. Davey Boy Smith.
God, I love that guy. I loved watching that guy.
Our cousins.
No, that's really cool. But thanks for being on the show. Hopefully we can do another show here soon. We'll have to get together. I'll have my people call your people, and we'll get that booked.
Definitely.
And then we'll talk a little bit more talking points. This upcoming Saturday would be a lot of wrestling going on, and we should have a show before then and talk about it and post it. Because that's, I mean, you got New Japan, you got AEW, you got NXT UK, and I think something else is brewing there too with one of the other promotions. So that's one hell of a weekend for wrestling, that's for sure.
I'm so happy to have these weekends, man.
Oh, dude, this is at least these weekends you can actually afford to watch shows. I mean, I know people complain. That'll be for another show about the prices that AEW has, but it's beneficial for them, most definitely.
Yes.
So they can afford to, pay their talent, pay their bills, because that's what's the most important. If they can't pay their bills, they don't have any show.
Yes.
And those athletes need to be paid. They do a lot. They put their bodies on the line to entertain us, and they definitely need to be paid. So, as for myself, I am DJ Barbecue. This is Tiger Man Smith. I hope you liked the show. And we'll see you later, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, if you're not drinking White Claw, you're losing out. All right, bye, people.